Do you have a ton of content in SharePoint, but still struggle to find what matters most? With Content Query, part of the SharePoint Content AI functionality, you can enable easy-to-use filters in your document libraries. In this video, I'm joined by Microsoft MVP Drew Madelung that will teach us everything we need to know about this functionality. Drew, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Vlad. So my name is Drew Madelung, and I'll be talking today all about the Content Query functionality as part of SharePoint Content AI solutions. So what we're going to be going through is what is Content Query? We'll be talking about how does it work, and some tips about working with Content Query for the information that you already have.
And for those of you that have been following the series, we're at part 13 of the amazing SharePoint Content AI functionalities. And for those of you that are new to the series, welcome in and make sure you check out the other videos so you know how to make the most out of SharePoint. But let's get started on Content Query. I'm excited.
Thank you, Vlad. So starting out, what is Content Query? So Content Query, as part of SharePoint Content AI, enables us to do some fast, precise searching directly within our document libraries. So let's say we've gone through, if you want to go back and watch some more videos that we've done on document processing or autofill to extract this metadata, right? We're talking about findability and discoverability. I want to pull metadata out, extract that information, but now I want to find that information. So Content Query allows me to look for specific metadata column values instead of relying on keyword searches. So I can open up a library, I've extracted a bunch of metadata, let's say I pulled out invoice information. Instead of just typing in invoice for Vlad on top, I can actually go in and start to do filtering based on the metadata that I have extracted or metadata I've created in whichever way I've needed to. This is part of SharePoint Search. So it's native inside of the search box up on top. This is not something that you have to add into your library. It's not something that you add into a web part. It is native inside of the search on top. So what you see is going to be three little bars. It's not a full ellipsis. It's three little bars on top. Whenever you're in a document library, you don't see that you won't see it there. But when you click in to search this library, you'll be able to click on that little three-line image, and it will pull up a filter pane for you that you can work and filter on your information. This does require Microsoft 365 services pay-as-you-go to be set up. We do have a video earlier in the series that we go deep into the configuration and setup for pay-as-you-go, but this does rely on that service to be available.
Awesome, but it requires pay-as-you-go, but it doesn't cost anything, right?
Similar to other functionalities of Content AI, this is not a consumption-based solution. It is simply available to you once you've enabled pay-as-you-go at no cost to you.
Awesome. So that's even better. It's free.
It is.
I love it.
So what you need to know as you're working with this is that the SharePoint columns that I work with, so I've created a library, I've added columns in there. Those columns need to be queryable. Not every column fits that type. Not everything would actually work. So columns need to be queryable. If you're familiar with SharePoint in the history of that, it is searchable columns. It is crawl properties, map properties. They exist. They will happen for you, but those do need to be working in your setup, in your tenant for that to happen. The columns that work for this are going to be your main column type. So your text, your note, which is a multi-line text field, your date, your people, your choice columns. These are actually the internal names of the column types that you'll be working with. But when you say add column, these are going to be the set ones that you get to work with. The big one, really nice to have, is going to be the manage metadata or taxonomy fields. You are able to use Content Query for those as well. When you are working with Content Query in your libraries, you might not see anything right away. Okay, so what happens is this is all based on search. So let's say I've done some invoice extraction. I've pulled out, let's say, 5 different columns. It will take time for those to occur, and you do need to have an action occur for those libraries. So I do need to interact with those columns. I need to make them queryable. And that happens by working with the columns themselves. Okay? So I can go in there, modify the view, make sure the columns are visible, group them, sort them, do something to make sure that the columns have action, and work with the files in that. And then it could take up to 5 days for the columns to show in that filter pane. So big thing to see is it might take time. You need to work with content. If you've just done a big migration and you've added a big extraction, you've never worked with it, you do need to go work with that content to make it accessible.
Okay, so I just want to double check something. I know that, and we come from the old school a bit of the SharePoint world where the search schema, we're used to it. We spend too much time in there. But if I understand it correctly, I don't need to go in the actual search schema.
Yes, good question.
There will be a workflow that when I create my library, I start populating metadata, but then once I click content query, Microsoft will do all of that for me in the background, correct or no?
Exactly, yeah. So if you're familiar with the search schema, this is not something we need to go map these crawl properties or work with them.
Cool.
They can be list columns, they can be site columns. All that has to happen is you have to interact with them. So you don't need to map anything. The workflow happens automatically. It will automatically index those columns. And once that happens and the data has been indexed, you'll be able to, content query will then render those columns available to you.
Okay, so new libraries done by default, existing libraries, first time a user clicks it, they're not lucky in a way.
They will not be lucky.
They will not be lucky, but by the time you get to their support ticket, it will work.
Absolutely. It will definitely take some time when you're testing this. So if you're following this video and you go check in your own library yourself, what you're going to do is click on that and modify the view a little bit, work with the columns, work with the data, and then come back later with up to 5 days. I've seen it on average a couple hours to a day, but depending on the size of your tenant, how much indexing is happening, it does require that to occur.
Okay, awesome. But I still love it that I don't have to go to the search schema because I don't want to say it's my nightmare, but it's not a fun place in the admin center to spend time.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
That one could still use some refresh these days. So when you do go with content, regardless of the indexing, there are default columns that are going to be available as part of this. Okay? So that indexing will occur, or that setup will occur primarily for some of the custom fields that you've added. But obviously with document libraries, you have default columns that exist. You have file name, you have modified date, you have a big action here is the ability to filter by content type. So if you've gone down the process that you've learned in this Content AI series of working with content types as you should be, you could have multiple content types on a library and be able to go in and filter that and say, this is my invoice content type, this is my contract content type by default without having to make any configuration changes at that point in time. When you do add custom columns, so if I add things beyond the default, what you're going to get is an add more options section. So custom library columns, they can be site columns, they can be list columns. That's okay in both directions. You won't see them in the default filter pane. You'll have to click add more options, and then you'll be able to add those to your filter pane as part of that search.
Great. Now let's see it in action.
Let's take a look at what this looks like. So I'm going to go into a document library that I have, and it's called Formulation Working Documents. And you're going to see I have a collection of metadata already here. So I have the name of the document, a document status, a document author, owner, document date. I have a lot of information that these are actually extracted through different Content AI solutions in multiple different file types. So I have Word, I have PowerPoint files in here. Now what you're going to see though, so I'm coming here, I'm going to say, I want to find content that was from a specific date. I'm like, a couple weeks ago, I created some ingredient files, and I want to look at what they were. So I would potentially come in here, and I could just search for, let's say, report. If I just search for report, it's going to search this library, and it's going to do a keyword search based on that keyword that I put in. Now, that obviously is not going to look for the way I want it to, right? That's just keyword searching in the library. Content query empowers this functionality. These 3 lines right here are something that people should know more about, which is why we're doing this series, is that when you click that, you have this filter pane that includes keywords, file name, people, modified date, and file type in this library. Once I go there, also in here, you'll see I have one more section called add more options. Now, when I go into this, and let's say I look for files, I always wanted to find a file that had a specific document date. So I was looking for a file from a couple weeks ago on April 11th. I'm going to go into document date. I can click on any. I want to say equals, and I can actually pick a date. So I get a date picker field. This is a date column. As you remember, I had a multiple types of columns work for this. And I'm going to go back in. I'm going to pick document date. And I'm going to pick equals. And I'm going to pick a date from a few weeks ago. Let's go April 11th. Filter that based on custom dates, and I'm going to instantly come back in and filter my files based on that custom metadata field that I extracted out of these files using that content query functionality. As I move through different document libraries, you're going to see different information is available. So all of the different custom columns that I pulled out will be included as part of that. So regardless of the library I'm in, the site I'm in, the functionality works across all of them. And depending on the different types that I'm working with, you'll have different functionality. So you saw the date type. I'm going to start this over, and let's look at something like the document owner. So I know there's a file that was around that Cable worked on. you're going to see this feature uses the people picker. Right? It's a people picker functionality, not just basic text. I can come back in here, pick document owner, I can select cable, click search, and it will automatically search for that, right? It's from a speed perspective, picture, this library has 100,000 documents in it, and we would need to filter that down. It's really hard to keyword search on that. So you're going to be able to use this functionality, and then you can even add multiple. So I'm going to do document date also equals April 11th. You're going to see that comes through. I filtered this down to a single file, multiple filtering options together, using the content query functionality up there to bring you to a specific file that you need to. It's all natively inside of your document library. I don't need to do anything custom, no workflows, no managing search schema. Create your columns, work with your columns, and find information using that search box.
I love it because even if search got better, and now with Copilot, we can even use Copilot to search certain things, that filtering functionality gives me certainty that I'm filtering by the things that I know. And also because we spend so much time investing in that metadata, it makes it even more useful. So that's something that I know I've built custom in the past for clients. So it being built in is amazing.
Yeah, we normally would build, you would instantly think of this as having to build search experiences on top of this. The limiting factor is this is per document library, right? Okay. So if I have invoices in multiple sites or multiple libraries, the content query feature is per library. So I go to that library, I'm only filtering that library. It's a filtering functionality in that existing space I'm in. If you're working in multiple, as you've extracted content, or we're using Content AI and other sites together, you still will come back to the search experience to bring them together, but you're still focusing on metadata. Metadata is still king. It is still here. It is one of the reasons we're doing the series, because more people should be using and taking advantage of metadata in their SharePoint environment.
And I love it that in this series, we've covered so many ways for you to get that metadata, whether it's content extraction with models, autofill columns, image tagging, OCR. We've showed you how you can get that metadata, and that just adds on top of it. That now that you have it, here's how you can make even more use of it. So it's amazing.
You can make refined decisions based on the metadata that you have. It makes your data more powerful. Now, working with this, a huge thing for me in this part is awareness. That this one is native, it's built into it, but you will have potential growing pains. People don't know the timing of it that it might take for it to occur. So building training, education for this feature is going to be more necessary than some of the other functionality that's just native as part of the Content AI solution. Because it is part of the search box, they might not know how to do it. This should have a separate one page or a training as part of your adoption inside of SharePoint in 365. The column types provide different functionalities. So when if you're doing content extraction or you're working with custom columns, don't always use text. You can get stuck with that. That can only work on a contains field. So if you're working with numerical values or integers, you set up number columns, set up people columns, set up taxonomy fields. Don't just default to the text field, because content query can be more powerful when you have non-textual based values. Be patient. If they don't show up right away, they will show up right away. Or they won't show up right away. So be patient, let them come to you. This will not replace your search web parts. They'll still have a big play for this. This will be only live in your library. And as I said, you can't add multiple. So be good to know that when I select one, I can select multiple. I could pick a content type and then filter to a date, then filter to an owner. You can't put those all together. As I said, this does use the pay-as-you-go licensing, but there is no cost to this as far as this after it's been set up.
I love it. Drew, thank you so much for this amazing video. The fact that it's free and we already have the metadata, we can make the most of it, is just amazing. For everybody watching, I really hope you enjoyed, and make sure to check out all the other videos in this SharePoint Content AI Deep Dive series. You'll see the playlist appear on your screen right now, and if you want to connect with Drew to check out his other amazing content, make sure to check all the links in the description below.